Hello everyone, my name is Celine Oliveri and I'm an associate biologist with Caltrans 667, which covers both Los Angeles and Ventura counties. Today I'd like to give you a presentation on one of Caltrans' projects, and it's called the Wildlife Modifications on State Route 118. First off, I'd like to provide you with some background information for this project, or not specifically for this project, just in general for wildlife movement and highways. So as you know, existing highways act as barriers to wildlife movement, causing habitat loss and fragmentation. They reduce population sizes and they reduce genetic diversity for various species. Highways are also barriers to wildlife movement, especially large mammals needing extensive home ranges, such as mountain lions. They require a pretty large home range. According to National Park Service, this can lead to negative consequences for wildlife populations and inhibiting species from reoccupying areas that have suffered local declines or extinctions. So generally, habitat fragmentation has led to inbreeding, territorial fighting, and a decrease in genetic diversity for these types of animals. And the need for crossing will only increase as climate change affects species distribution patterns. We could already see that with the fires that are occurring statewide and sea level rise, etc. Sustainability is a central element of Caltrans' mission. Sustainability describes the degree to which human activities are enhancing economic, social, and environmental vitality over the long term. Our sustainability principles emphasize transportation facilities that are designed and operated to provide long-term benefits to people, the planet, and our common prosperity. And sustainability includes both social and environmental components. As you can see on this slide, the social component includes reducing vehicle-wildlife collisions, and then the environmental component consists of ecosystem preservation as well as climate change mitigation. So Caltrans is taking steps to create integrated and informed wildlife concept or wildlife corridor concepts. And the first step into doing this is assessing our transportation system as a whole. So this includes taking a look or assessing route deficiencies and our existing assets. So that's things like checking on culverts and bridges to see if there's debris blocking the way for wildlife using the undercrossings, or if the culverts have such a high drop that animals can't use them to pass. We also look at things such as key natural resources, which include wildlife habitat corridors that have high connectivity. So we'll go ahead and look at research reports that have shown, specific areas that are key wildlife crossings. Like South Coast Wildlands did a report a while back, and it shows an important connection, the Santa Monica Sierra Madre connection, which is in Los Angeles County. So we take a look at things like that, as well as important conservation areas and that are high priority open space. And we also look at land use values, such as regional conservation plans. So Caltrans D7 or District 7 is attempting to remedy the effects of highways by improving key undercrossings for wildlife movement along State Route 118, and this is located in Ventura County. The 118 is currently one of the largest obstacles affecting the movement of wildlife near the critical linkage within the Santa Monica Sierra Madre connection, and it acts as a barrier, once again causing wildlife vehicle collisions. So for our assessment, we worked with National Park Service via the State Planning and Research Grant. It's also known as the SPR grant. So the study took place in the city of Moore Park between post mile 16.5 and 4.2 between March 2011 and January 2013, and it consisted of mortality monitoring, wildlife cameras, radio collars. The goal of the study was to measure the wildlife mortality from vehicles and to determine wildlife movement patterns in the area. And it would help NPS to evaluate the use of the existing roads as crossing points and to be able to see where the animals are crossing specifically, so that we could possibly improve these areas later and make the wildlife crossings more effective and increase connectivity. So the study lasted for an entire year, and NPS monitored the movement of wildlife within this project area, and turns out that there were a total of 509 roadkills within the year that they were able to measure. So, and here are some of the main findings of the wildlife study. So, underpasses along 118, 3 of the areas, Mexico Creek, North Street, and La Cumbre, accounted for 97% of all the documented crossings. Bobcats rarely crossed. As I had mentioned before, rabbits accounted for most of the WVC mortality, so it's 45%. On average, there were about 1.35 animals killed per day, and NPS documented a total of 13 species crossing. A lot of the underpasses had walls or large drops that made it so that animals were unable to cross the areas. So this is a picture of a bobcat jumping one of the locations. This is the La Cumbre underpass, and it's not a huge drop. It's about 3 feet. Bobcat was able to do it easily. But then you have the opossum over here trying to do the same thing, and he was unsuccessful because he can't jump as high as a bobcat. So the next step after the assessment of our facilities was to rank the different crossing points and culverts. And to do this, we took into account different factors such as vegetative cover, connectivity to natural areas, wildlife detection rates, etc. As you can see, we were able to rank the different wildlife crossings based on the importance for mitigation. So the top priority was North Street, then Long Canyon, then Donlin, then La Cumbre, then Wailing Siren, and then Mexico Creek. After we went out, or after we looked at the study that National Park Service had created for us, showing the different results, we went out with FHWA to the field to do a cost assessment and see what was actually feasible for us to fix. So since 7 key culverts were identified with NPS's study, we went out to the field with them to develop preliminary wildlife passage concepts for each of the locations, and FHWA provided alternatives for retrofitting existing culverts to accommodate medium to large predatory animals such as bobcats, coyotes, and mountain lions. So once we had this information, we were able to apply for a grant to fund the modifications for the project, and we went through the California Natural Resources Agency and applied for the Environmental Enhancements and Mitigation Program grant. And we were awarded $349,600 for our project, and this included $18,000 for a post-construction that was going to be conducted by National Park Service, since they had conducted the pre-construction already. So this is our project area. We were able to modify 5 locations as opposed to the 7 that we had previously shown as top ranking locations, and that's because we had some restrictions on the dollar amounts that we had that we could spend, so we made the most out of the money that we had for the grant. So for our 118 project, we were able to install fencing along 118 to prevent wildlife from crossing the road directly and trying to funnel them into a certain location. So we did this at the Mexico Creek location, and we did this at the Long Canyon location. We also were able to do riprap concrete and steel ramps at various locations. So we did steel ramps at La Cumbre and Wailing Siren. And then we did riprap at North Street and a large concrete ramp at Long Canyon. So the year-long post-construction that took place at these locations by NPS consisted of the same format as the pre-construction. So there was wildlife mortality monitoring, and they used cameras, they used collaring, and they wrote a final report for us. So this is Mexico Creek before. As you can see, there's some wildlife carcasses and just no fencing. They only have the guardrail, so that's not helpful for them. And this is the bridge at the bottom right. But we did have a lot of movement in the area that National Park Service showed. And this is Mexico Creek after. You could see the fencing extending from each way. So this actually made a big difference for the wildlife crossing in the project. And then this is Wailing Siren before. As you could see, it's a pretty big drop. The very left picture shows the inlet of the culvert, and the top picture shows the outlet. So it's a pretty big size culvert, but that drop at the inlet was about 12 to 15 feet. So it makes it really hard for animals to cross unless they're going to jump over that huge drop. So this is the project after. We did steel ramps. We also put these wooden slats so that animals could grip a little bit easier, make it easier for them. And we also included stenciling and spray paint to say that, you know, the ramp is intended for wildlife use only, so humans should not use it. This is Long Canyon before. As you can see, the drop is pretty massive. This is the area or the location that included the wildlife fencing, not the wildlife fencing, the ladder that raccoons were able to climb up. So this is Long Canyon after. This is our largest ramp that we constructed. And we also included fencing at this location. And the bottom right picture shows some of the stenciling that was done to deter humans from using the crossings. This is also La Cumbre. You can see a picture of this raccoon trying to make it down this wall. Not a huge drop, but it could prevent some wildlife from crossing the area. And then this is the La Cumbre area after. Once again, there's stenciling. The bottom right picture shows a bear using the ramp, which is super awesome. I didn't even know there were bears in that area because it's like an agricultural area, and I had never seen them in the area, so that was really exciting to see that. This is North Street, and you could see a bobcat trying to jump from the wing wall that's like kind of covered by the vegetation into the culvert. So it was really difficult for animals to go to cross this location also. So this is after. You could see coyotes using the riprap ramp as well as raccoons. So far this project has been really successful. These are some of the images that National Wildlife cameras have captured. You know, there was even a mountain lion in the area scoping out the Long Canyon ramp, possums and their babies, coyotes, just a whole different or like a wide range of animal species using it, really. And here are some more pictures. So it's pretty awesome, this project. They're doing the post-construction report right now, so they're still analyzing the data, and by they I mean National Park Service, but they were able to provide us with some mortality rates for the post-construction project or report. And as you can see, there's now 88 number of animals found for the mortality surveys, and previously within the project area it was 500 approximately. So the mortality rates have reduced significantly, which is awesome. And so we're thinking that this project is increasing habitat conditions and linkages and helping with reduced fragmentation, since we're getting a lot of successful crossings in the area. So the next steps include other projects that Caltrans has going on, and that includes the big Liberty Canyon crossing, which is on the 101. So we're really excited about that, to be a part of that with the National Wildlife Federation. That is supposed to be going in construction at the very end of this year. So we're excited about that. And then we're going to be working on Rocky Peak, which is also on the 118, but it's further east. There's a lot of there's going to be a wildlife study done there also, and hopefully we can make modifications depending on what type of results the National Park Service finds. So that's it for my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, thank you for listening to my presentation.